I like it. Works for me. Yes? Is that good? Y'all can hear? Yeah. Good. Right. Great. Okay, you guys ready? Good. Great. So the subject tonight is sales, the creation of products, software products, and the sales of software products. And just to kind of begin with a few generalized thoughts, it's really important to know where you're trying to get to and where you're coming from to be successful. And it really doesn't much matter what it is, in my opinion, whether it's becoming successful in athletics, in academics, in your social life, personal happiness. The principles are always really about the same. What we're looking at is something that I would call ethics. And I know that being ethical and ethics are not something that we think well of necessarily in our society. Everybody pretends to like the idea of being ethical. But somehow ethics seems outmoded. And ethics are never really outmoded at all. If you have an ethical base for what you do, then essentially you will find that you'll be much more successful. Some people are not particularly ethical and they derive a short-term success. But even that short-term success is not really happy. They're not happy with their success. You can make a lot of money and be miserable. You can be very successful at something and not be happy. If you're ethical, what you find is that you will be happy. You'll have a level of personal satisfaction in what you do, whether you're successful or not. But if you're ethical, eventually you'll be successful. So the Buddhist thought on the subject is always be ethical. Buddhism is essentially a study of ethics and applied ethics to all types of situations, be they easy or difficult. So if you're involved with the creation of a software product, the marketing and sales and distribution of a product, you need to be ethical. And essentially what that means is that there is an inherent good karma to what you're doing. That is to say, you're creating something that somebody needs. Something that's going to help them with their business, a piece of educational software that may help somebody learn mathematics, spelling, grammar, a game that's going to give some kid a great time when they're sitting there playing space blasters and they're going after the alien craft. You know, it's going to produce a level of happiness. It may be an arbitrage system for the market that's going to allow people to make better stock trades. It may be an artificial intelligence system for medical scanning systems, so we can help the people with their MRIs detect disease earlier or more efficiently. It may be a forecasting system, an analysis tool of some type. What's fascinating about software is that it's in every part of our lives. Now, you are all software professionals. You've all been in the business for many years. And obviously, you find the industry attractive. But my take on software is that the most exciting thing in software is to create out of nothing, if you will, a product, to put your energy, your work, your belief into something, to see it through a period of development from the initial idea to deciding whether it's a marketable idea, to taking that idea and doing something with it. That is to say, actually creating the code for it or hiring somebody to create the code for you, as the case may be. To a graphical front end that's attractive. We're talking not just user-friendly, but user-intimate, essentially. You know, a piece of software that's delightful to use. What they call user-friendly, as opposed to what's out there, of course, is not particularly friendly. It just means maybe you have a chance of being able to use it, as opposed to most software, which is impossible to use for the average person, let alone many trained people. It's bad. Most software is bad. And people got away for years with putting out bad software. And I don't think that that's ethical. So when we create a product, the first thing we want to do is create something that's ethical. Ethics means that we feel good when we get up in the morning. I feel good because I have created a product that I know is going to meet somebody's needs. It's going to help them in their business. It's going to help them in school. It's going to help them relax and have a good time, help them with their health, help them make money. It's ethical. But ethics extends also into the actual creation of the piece of software. That is to say, I believe it's ethical to make something that's easy to use and unethical to make something from the slash and burn school in which you can turn it out quickly, make a bunch of money, but no one has a good product. So I think it's ethical to take the time to critique your product and to go over it until it works well. It's pleasant to use. If you have to have a help book that's this thick, you have a bad product. Essentially, I don't believe that you should have secondary source material, help guides. Everything should be all-inclusive in the product, and all the help guides should be inherent in it. So ethics in software means that we've created something that there's a need for to start with. We feel good about ourselves because we're not ripping somebody off. We're honest, essentially. We are going to be ethical not just in creating something that someone needs, but also something that works, not just internally in that it gives you a result, but it is pleasant for the person to use. And we're assuming the person using the piece of software is not an individual who is a software analyst as you are. There's someone, we are always assuming the person has computer phobia. They're scared to death of computers. They're scared to death of software. And maybe they've had bad experiences. Maybe they were bitten by software when they were a child. Maybe they were attacked by, one of the early IBM PCs, or even worse, a clone. You see, maybe they got multitasked by accident. It happens. These things happen to real people. I mean, I've read about it in the Inquirer. So what we want to do is create something that we feel good about, but also something that works well. And to do that, it's a very good feeling to create something that works well. Because first of all, you're going to be successful. There's not much competition. Most people don't create things well. The Japanese create things well. Kensai. They work on a product and they improve it and they improve it and they improve it. Quality control. But there's a certain sense of compassion or awareness that goes into a product in the making of a product, that goes into a sale, that goes into anything in your life. And this is the difference between happiness and unhappiness. When you do things ethically, you can be highly competitive, perhaps more competitive. You can be perhaps more successful, but most importantly, you feel good about what you do. And you never feel you're a sleaze, you never feel that you've ripped anybody off, including yourself. So it's really worth it to think out of an ethical background, to create things ethically. When you go and you're selling a product that you've created, or someone perhaps you work with has created a software product, and you know it's an excellent product, you feel good. You don't feel like you're representing something. You're not selling some nice old lady a car that's going to break down on the next block. You see, you're selling something that you can feel good about. A lot of people in our country and in our culture feel very ashamed about sales. We feel that a salesperson is a sleazy person. There's something inherently wrong. They intrude on our personal space, if you will. You go to buy a car and, 3 of them jump you and try and sell you something maybe you don't want that doesn't work very well. But that is not what we do. That is to say, if you're designing a piece of software in tandem with me, if you're learning to sell software, if you're learning to meditate, if you're learning to improve your athletic life, any of the things I deal with, music, the arts, everything comes out of an ethical background. And the thought is, what is important is to be happy. And happiness is intimately connected for us as human beings with our work, with how we feel about ourselves, whether we provide some level of service to the community around us. You can't make everybody happy, and I don't think you need to. I don't think that's our job. Our job is simply to feel each day that whether we've done a small thing or a great thing, it's been ethical. And you will observe that people who are ethical make a lot of money, are personally happy, and have a lot of friends. People will always speak well of you because there aren't many people that are ethical. There just aren't. Ethics in sales means that you will properly represent a product. To properly represent something, you have to know what it is. There are a lot of salespeople who, when in a software business, they'll quickly read the manual, they'll get an idea, and they go out and they try and sell people things that perhaps the person doesn't need. Perhaps it will not do what they claim. The salesperson doesn't know the product. And there are people who even can be successful. They're just such good hustlers that they can get a person to buy it, but it's not ethical. It's ethical to figure out what is it that I'm selling? Who is my market? Is this item properly priced? What is the competition? An ethical salesperson is somebody who's going to know the competition and know yourself. Sun Tzu says in The Art of War, know yourself and know the enemy. If you know yourself, you have a 50-50 chance of winning, Sun Tzu says. If you know the enemy, you have a 50-50 chance of winning and losing. But if you know yourself and the enemy, you'll win. So when we sell something in a competitive marketplace, we are going up against somebody, the competition. And you need to know the competition. You need to know what other products are in the area. And never be afraid of saying, this piece of software, let's say you were doing a relational database. Let's say you were selling DB2 and you're working for IBM and you're going to go in and say, okay, here's DB2. Now, for you to pretend DB2 will do something better than Sybase does is ridiculous, and you don't need to. People respond to honesty in my experience. When you go in and say, listen, I'm not going to tell you that DB2 is the greatest database in the world for everything. It's not. Sybase does certain wonderful things, for a certain platform. Oracle does great things for a certain platform for a certain need. But having assessed your needs, if you have accurately, which is the ethical part, then I have assessed that DB2 is exactly what will work best for you on the system you're running, the environment you're in, and the budget you have. Not only will you like it when you initially buy it, but you'll find it works well in time. We have wonderful customer support, and we'll send you a box of candy, and tickets to the Bears game, or whatever it is. So I think part of being ethical is having a sense of what your line of work is, having a sense of what the competition is, having a sense of the limitations of the product, yourself, and then getting very excited about what you do, whether it's creating a piece of software, marketing it, selling it, or whatever you do in life. The worst thing in life, I think, is to fake it. You have to fake it. That feeling that you're going to get caught, you're going to be exposed, which you probably will be eventually. Don't fake it, learn it. This is my philosophy. And it really makes a difference. There's a wonderful feeling being on top of your field. There really is. To knowing all about what it is that you do. Not just having enough knowledge to get you by. It's a great feeling as a teacher when I teach metaphysics to know that I'm deeply grounded in Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, and many, many other Far Eastern disciplines. When people ask a question about any of those disciplines, I'm never at a loss because I've spent years and years studying them all. And then I will be able to say, well, this is the one that I think is applicable for you. It's the same with software. If you know what is available, if you have a sense of it, if you've done market research, then essentially you become a friend to the customer. In other words, what's most important is that a person feel that you are a fount of knowledge, that you know what you're talking about. And part of the way that you sense that someone knows what they're talking about is they know not just the specifics that they're presenting to you, but they know the area. So if someone comes in and they had a question about another type of database, perhaps that you don't offer, if you didn't have the answer to their question, you'd be at a loss. On the other hand, if you can impress me with your overall knowledge, okay, we have a health care package, right? It's a management system for clinics that we've developed. Now, when you go in, and if you come into me and I'm at a clinic, and you're going to say, I have this particular package, you ask me what I'm running currently, and you already know what it is, you know what it costs, you know its limitations. And then you can tell me about all other possible systems. You can say, well, here are my 5 primary competitors, and let me tell you about their good points and bad points. If you just try and paint them in black, that's not ethical, because they have good points. But you should have more good points for your system than their system. Or maybe it's equal, or you have a few less, but your price is much lower. And they realize that, and for less money, they're going to be very satisfied. They're getting a better deal. Essentially, that's what car selling is. A Mercedes-Benz does not do anything that a Toyota doesn't. A Mercedes-Benz goes forward, and backward. It turns. It parks, hopefully. It uses gas. It doesn't take you any place a Toyota won't. But it offers a level of comfort, perhaps a level of safety, perhaps a sense of personal fulfillment. You can impress your neighbors, impress yourself, impress your dog. Okay, it offers you certain things. But essentially, when you buy a Mercedes-Benz, you see, I could sell you a Mercedes right now. You're all ready to sign up, especially with our new lease plan. Our win-win-win lease, right? Yeah. Right. The most important thing in sales is to get the customer to relax, not to oversell, not to undersell. But if you have a genuine enthusiasm, if you actually believe in what you are representing and like it, and most are going to think you're a jerk. But they'll like you. You're sort of a happy jerk. And they say, well, I really don't want to buy what you're selling today, but you obviously believe in this product. You see? I would rather you represent a product that you believe in that makes you a little less money on a sales commission than see you represent something that you don't believe in, because you'll end up making more money, because you'll have more sales and you'll be happier. Always do what you believe. That's what the flow of ki, internal energy. The flow of the ki is different for each one of us. And you can always tell if you're in the flow of ki, internal energy, because you're happy. You feel good about what you do. When you make your own product, it's your baby and you're representing it, and you know you're going to be excited about it. Because you created it, you worked on it, and you know its limitations, but you're proud of it, and you should be. You cannot expect other people who represent your product to be as excited as you are about it, because they didn't make it. It's not theirs. But if you can show them what's exciting about your product, if you can get them excited and share your excitement about what this does, what did you figure out? Why did you dream this thing up with to start with? It's good to tell stories. You see, you're trying to excite somebody about a product. Okay, you've developed a financial analysis tool. If I had a bunch of salespeople and I was trying to get them excited about it, what I would do is I would sit them down, give them coffee, Danish, whatever. And I would sit them down and say, okay, guys, let me tell you a story. And that's how I came up with this product and why. You see? You have to give people things they can relate to. Now, I'd immediately say, or if I was selling a product, I'd say, you know why I represent this product? Let me tell you a story. All right? And then I would proceed with a personal anecdote, which was true, about why you created that product. Because you looked around, you needed a specific thing, you were looking at applications, and there was no such thing. Or they were priced too high, or they were inefficient, or they didn't have certain features. And just, this is what happened. You created something, you hooked onto an energy line, you hooked onto the power of something that excited you enough to create it and make it. You have to give people a sense of that. You have to transfer your excitement to other people. And that's what personal stories are about. If you're clinical and say, hi there, I have invented this wonderful product today, and I'd like to tell you all about it. This is the Acme Widget 5000, that sort of thing. And this is what it does, and this is what it doesn't do, and now be excited and go sell it. You're not going to move anybody. On the other hand, if you say, let me tell you a story. I was in Egghead Software one day, and I was looking around for this particular application, and there was no such thing. And I couldn't believe it. And then I went further and went to this vendor, and there were some applications, but I could see they weren't running. So I decided to create this to fulfill these needs, or because everything was too expensive and people at AIDS clinics couldn't afford to buy this particular piece of software. You see? And so in other words, you have to involve a person emotionally in your true story, because it's a true story. How you created this, what excited you. When the person goes out to make a sale, they'll remember that. Not even consciously, but subliminally. You have to, enthusiasm is very infectious if it's genuine. If it's lie, if you're just shining someone on, it won't last. That's what I mean by being ethical. Being ethical means being truthful. Okay, I'm not being particularly religious here. But in my estimation, truth is representing your actual feelings, your positive feelings that you have. And I think you have more positive feelings than you realize. Definitely. So then when you create something, and you take the time to do market analysis. You're being ethical. I was reading a little article the other day. I was reading one of these little AI magazines, AI PC, monthly or whatever it is. And they were writing about a guy who creates artificial intelligence software. He sells it very inexpensively, like $50, $150 for these little tools. And they talked about that what he does before he sells a piece of software, before he makes a piece of software, the first thing he does is he gets an idea. When he has an idea, the next thing he does is he calls up a number of companies and he sees if they'd like to buy it. He acts as if the product is already done. I have a product that's complete or near completion. And he does market analysis. And he calls up and says, I have this product and be priced in this range, and would you be interested? He pre-sells a product that he's not created. What this guy does, he goes one step further, but I guess he produces software very rapidly. He actually takes orders for something that he hasn't created yet. And if he gets enough orders, he knows it's going to go, and he creates it really quickly and gets it out to everybody. Now, this guy's a unique case, perhaps, but there's something to be learned here. You must do research. You have to do market research before you spend all the time and energy to create a product. Because otherwise, you may work and slave over something that no one wants to buy, or it may be priced out of the market. So you get a great idea, if not two or three. And then the next thing you do is you do market research. You can't be embarrassed. You've got to go into some firms and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm currently creating a product thus and such. I would like to hear your opinion about it. Is this something that you would need? Would you like to beta test it for me? I will sell you this product for $1 if you'll beta test it for me, give me feedback, and give me a letter at the end of the whole experience if you like the product for my file, for my PR. I'll sell it to you for $1, right? And if you get a number of people who will do that, first, before you got to the dollar stage, of course, you indicated that you would like to have some feedback as to whether this is a product they find useful. What would they be willing to pay for it? Suppose I was doing a piece of software for a car dealership, okay, some kind of an inventory control system of their new and used cars, or just a market analysis tool of what people want and what they don't. Customer preferences, so that when they order cars, they don't have a lot of cars sitting on the lot that people typically don't want. Colors they don't want, features they don't want, because then they just sit there and then they have to mark them down and they lose a lot of money. Or best yet, of course, you could sell this to car manufacturers. An analysis tool, a projection AI tool that would help people determine before they made a car, the marketability of the car, you see, with a little bit of market research. So essentially what you're doing whenever you market a product, create a product, sell a product, is you are doing research. Most people, unfortunately, do their research after they've created the product. You create the product, and then you find out, much to your dismay and shock, that not that many people want it. Some of you are having that experience. You've developed a software product, and the world is not beating a path to your doorway, right? So then what you have to do is obviously make some changes in the product, do some research. When you go in to sell something, and I'm going in and representing my product, if the person doesn't buy my product, I have a question for them. I don't feel rejected, I don't take it personally. But if they had a need for my product to begin with, and they didn't buy it, I would just say, excuse me, just for a minute, I really appreciate this, I'm new in the business. Could you please tell me, why didn't you purchase the product? I'd really love the feedback if you could just give me a minute. Now, most people are not so hard-hearted that they won't give you a minute. But most people who sell or create products are just too darned embarrassed. There's too much personal ego vested to ask that question. You take it as a rejection. Oh, you didn't buy my product. You didn't like me. No, this is nonsense. You're never going to get ahead that way. In life, you have to be willing to ask for criticism. And when you're not, you stop growing. Life is an endless learning process. And in this process, we must always have feedback. I'm in the music business. I'm a producer. And what I do is produce. Producing means that I work with musicians who create a piece of music. Sometimes I write the music with them. Same way we design software. And when we create a piece of music, part of what happens is the musicians get so involved in the creation of the music that they can't hear it. or they don't want to hear what's wrong with it. It's their baby. They wrote the song. They played it. And they've listened to it so many times. They've played the piece of music so many times that after a while, they literally can't hear it. They've lost an objective sense. You've all gone to movies where you go into a movie and it's awful. And they spent $10 million, $40 million, $8 million, and you know you could have made a better movie. No, you've had the experience where you sit and watch this turkey on the air, right? On TV or in the movies. And you, at some point, you ask yourself, you say, how could it be that they didn't have someone sitting there the whole time to say, guys, I don't think this is a good idea. Why don't we stop right here, change the script, get a new lead actor or actress. This is not going to work. Or, you know, what they do is they put films like that out all the time, and they lose $30 million. So what a producer is supposed to do is stand back, because even a director can get too involved. A creative person gets very involved in their work, and we take our work personally, and we take rejection personally. What a good producer does is stand back, and they're supposed to be the objective voice and say, you know, you guys are so involved with this, you don't see, I love it, it looks great, but no one's going to buy it. Now, as a person who creates a product, which is our discussion topic, and sells their own product, one of the things you have to do is realize that you are going to get so involved with what you create that you're not going to see it properly. And what you need is advice. The best advice you can get is from a customer or a potential customer. And the best advice you're going to get is not from someone who bought it, but someone who didn't. Because what you're going to learn is what they want. They're going to say it was too expensive, so maybe you have to design a product that's less expensive. You're going to hear people say that, well, it didn't do this, this, and this. It doesn't run on this platform. It doesn't interface with this. Now, some people, of course, are dreamers. They will expect a product to do things that are unreasonable. They would love to buy for $500 something that would sell for $10,000. You know, you're always going to get that in life. But what we're looking for is useful feedback from our customers. And if you're running a sales network and you yourself are so busy developing and overseeing product development that you don't have time to get out and meet with customers personally, which I think is a mistake, by the way. I think it's very, very important to always, if you have 100 salespeople and they're always selling successfully and you don't need to get out there, I think you should go out once in a while and try selling your own product. The day you don't, you're out of touch. But part of being in touch with the marketplace is gaining information. We're in the information processing business. That's what computer science is. What we do is we process, collate, divide, take that which is useful, that from that which is not, according to the customer's point of view. We provide people with information. We are in the transmission of information business and the refinement of information, the analysis of information. Of all people, we should be in touch with information. Of all people, we should have a sense of how important it is to have facts, figures, and statistics that are relevant and not irrelevant. Of all people, we should want to know what's right or wrong with what we're doing. Part of it can come from pre-selling first and take people's comments seriously. Some people, they put in a big suggestion box and they never read the suggestions. They just do it to pacify their employees. The Japanese, on the other hand, read every single suggestion that comes in, and they implement many of them very quickly. What we really need in life more than anything is an additional perspective. We have our own perspective. We already know what it is, and it's unlikely it's going to change in the next week or two. Once in a while, we upgrade, we get a whole new way of looking at things. But every time you sell something, you're learning what you need and what you don't. If you ask when the person doesn't buy, why they didn't buy. Not as a clever ploy to get them to buy it, but just you should be genuinely interested in knowing what is it that it doesn't do. Why didn't you buy this? What would it take to sell you? And if you keep hearing the same thing from a number of people, then it's time to come up with a new product or redo the one you have. That's the most important thing. That's what ethics is to me. Ethics is a sense of, not that I want to serve the customer. I don't know, that sounds a little euphemistic to me. I don't think anybody wants to be anybody's servant. I think we all want to be our own boss. That's the idea. But what we do want to be is successful. We do want to be happy, and we want to feel good about what we do. And we want to be, of course, a smashing success. But it's a given that we all have blind spots. We all have limitations. And the way we overcome those limitations is with criticism. We need other points of view. We get sterile if we're just bouncing around in our own mind all the time. We need an objective correlative to life, to product sales, to development, to anything that we do. That's why we have coaches. That's why we have teachers. That's why we have meditation masters, martial arts instructors. Because there's a sense that we'd like to progress, we'd like to learn. Well, as you know, when you want to design and sell a software product, there really isn't someone you can go to per se. But who you can get an accurate reflection from at any given time is the marketplace. It is the marketplace that will tell you where you are all the time. And it's just the most important thing, in my opinion. We need that marketplace. It's our check and balance system. The marketplace is what tells us whether we're on or off. So you use the marketplace intelligently. You begin to use the marketplace before you design a piece of software. Some of you are about to design your first piece of software. I congratulate you. Congratulations. Yes. Future software vendors of America. Yes. Of the planet Earth. Yeah, good for you. But before you create a piece of software, it would behoove you, it would be a great idea to get a measurement of the market. And you can't just ask your friends, because your friends will say, hey, that's a great idea, Bob. Maybe because they don't want to offend you. Maybe because they're creating a competitive product. And they'll say, oh, that's a great idea. You're going to price it for $10,000. This guy's crazy. Good, go ahead and do it. I like that. That's fabulous. Because he's going to sell his for $2,500, and that's what the market will bear. All is fair in love and war, and business is definitely war. But one can run an ethical war. As a matter of fact, war without ethics is insanity. So market research starts with the idea. You have to shop it. You have to knock on some doors. First thing we do is we see the rest of the software that's available. We go to software vendors and say, hi, I'm interested in software that you may have. Can I see your brochures? What does it do? What is the price? We learn the systems. Then we go into Nordstrom's and we say, hi, what kind of system are you running? And Nordstrom's will say, well, we're running the Wackenschmiel 5000 2.5. And, it's driving us crazy. And say, oh, great. Well, I'm familiar with that piece of software, which you are. You've done your homework. What are you having problems with? What do you like about it? And then you begin to make notes. You go over to Sears and talk to the people at Sears in their clothing department. You go to the Limited, you go to the Gap. As you gather information and you get a sense of what features they like and what they don't like, you need to talk to people at cash registers. You need to talk to people in management. Then gradually you get an idea of how you want to position your product. Then you walk into management and say, I would like to see if you'd be interested in beta testing a product like this. And if you are, tell me what you think it's worth and so on and so forth, and I could make you a very great deal. But part of the deal is that you'll give me some feedback and some input on what you'd like to see. I would like to design this product around you, specifically for the Nordstrom stores. And then I will take a generic version of it, obviously, and sell it elsewhere. What you will get for this help is a custom designed product for very little money. And what I will get is a generic product that I can sell elsewhere. No one basically is going to turn you down on a deal like that because they'd be spending an incredible amount of money to get a custom designed system. What you will get is their feedback and their input through the development. What you need to know is what people want. And you can't be timid. First, you have to have a sense. It would be wrong to just walk into Nordstrom's and say, hi, I'm thinking about developing a piece of software for inventory control. What do you like and what don't you like about your current software? That would not be ethical. What is ethical first is to find out all the basic software that's around and take a look at it. Not just read the literature. You've got to view it. You've got to get a sense of it and know the marketplace. Then when you walk into Nordstrom's and say, hi, I'm interested in designing a product. I'm in the process of designing a product. I've already looked at everything in the field and I know it very well. What are you running? And they'll say, well, I'm running the so-and-so. And say, oh, yeah, oh, God. Are you having problems with the multitasking? And say, oh, God, you don't want to know. The system was down for 15 hours last week. We're going crazy. They keep telling us we're going to fix it. No one shows up, right? but I would like to get you involved with a piece of software that takes care of all these problems, plus it makes you breakfast in the morning. Now, wouldn't that be nice to have breakfast made, while you're waiting by the computer, and at the same time, it's going to run all your inventory at night, okay? It's going to cross-check for theft problems. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. And then you will, of course, with their help, design that product, sell it, and then you can market it all over the world. Once you've designed it and you start to move it around, you'll get other reflections from other buyers. The people at Sears may say, well, we like this feature, but Nordstrom's is a little more upscale than us. They, spend more time. They mark things higher. We essentially are discounting clothing to a larger group of people. We sell to a lot younger profile audience. We sell to middle America more. And so we needed to do this, you see. That's why we wouldn't buy it currently. And then you say, well, great, I'd love to develop a version for you because, they have 500 stores. And they're going to buy 500 versions, 500 site licenses or a major site license or whatever. The sense is that this is a very exciting business. This is one of the few businesses left in the world where you can become an entrepreneur, where you can make $50 million, $100 million, whatever you'd like to make, or just a good living. Creating a piece of software at home on a PC, because PCs these days, of course, are basically mainframes in a small box. I don't know of any other field like this anymore. You can sit at home, create something that you can feel proud about, market it, become independently wealthy, and have a ball doing it, at the same time providing something that people really need, because everybody's frustrated with their software, because it was made by people who were looking for a quick buck, who didn't do research properly, who weren't ethical, which is why everybody hates software. All the first generation, second generation, and third generation software is basically unethical. There are very few packages that are ethical. That is to say, people knew they had a closed market. That's what the downfall of IBM was all about. I think IBM is a phoenix and will rise again out of its ashes, personally. But the great lesson of IBM is that they were not ethical in keeping up with what the market wanted. They had a closed market. Everybody had to buy from IBM. They were the major supplier. And after a while, they weren't interested in finding out where the customer wanted to be next, what the customer's problems were, and how to solve them. Consequently, they went down, whereas small companies that became interested in those concerns have flourished. Now IBM, I think, is getting the idea, and they realize that IBM can't call the shots and dictate what should be or what shouldn't be. What IBM has to do is do market research. And they just got so lost in their lovely little pyramids that they built up on 684, right? Wonderful architecture. Did you know the guy who designed the entrance to the Louvre, the Pyramid Le Louvre, designed those buildings in Westchester? Those lovely pyramid IBM buildings? Yeah. They built beautiful buildings. But they stopped asking people, what do you need? Because they became too self-important and they were dictating the standards. So no matter how big you get, the lesson is never stop asking people for criticism, no matter how successful you are. That's what humility is to me. Humility is the ability to be aware, if you will, that you don't know everything. And the best friend in the world you have is the person who's going to tell you what you don't want to hear. The best friend you have is the person who's going to say, you're off there. And I don't know why it is, but we seem to have an intrinsic reaction to not wanting to hear that. And particularly as Americans, we have a lot of strong qualities as Americans, but one of the problems we seem to have is when somebody critiques us. If a person doesn't want to hear it, you stop telling them. In the I Ching, it says, of course, that eventually, if a person doesn't want to be taught, the teacher goes away. That's just life. And people can tell real fast if you want to learn or not. So essentially, I think the way you make a sale or the way you create a product is you start out with a sense of what do I not know? You can't be at such a point that you lack the self-confidence to feel that you cannot find out. But you have to have an open mind. You have to feel that you need assistance, you need information, you need data. And the person who's going to go out and get that data is yourself. Some of you are representing other people's products. Some of you here have made some products, and some of you are selling their products, and now you're going to make your own products. And some of you think, well, why should I go out and sell somebody else's product? You see? There's a great reason. Every time you sell somebody else's product, you're learning how to design your own better. Every time you succeed or fail, if you ask for feedback, you are critiquing that piece of software that you're representing. Hopefully you'll pass the critiques on to the person who created it. Hopefully they will not blow you off and they'll listen to that information and put it into an improved version of their software. It is in the making of something that we really find ourselves. It's in the making of something that we deal with the creative forces of life that made us. It's in the making of something, giving birth to something. We have to go through an incredible process. We have to search in our subconscious, deal with our conscious mind, and we make this thing, and be it perfect or imperfect, we made it, and it's real, and you can touch it, and you can give it to other people, and it's very exciting.